Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of the MMA Huddle. As always, give us a like, give us a subscription, and comment below on your picks. And obviously, if you have any bets, a couple of people did really well at the weekend on social media. We saw, so that was great stuff. We're always happy to see people do well. And UFC 250 is upon us. It's a COVID 250. It's the best of what they could work with, because I'm sure with a 250 kind of number, they would have probably wanted to likely have maybe 2 or 3 championships on the line. But we have Amanda Nunes and Felicia Spencer holding up that main event for the featherweight title. Before we jump in to kick off, Will, how are you handling the 2-meter distance? How is it still going for you? Because obviously Scotland are taking a different... Obviously, I'm not in England either, but Scotland having a different approach than England with it all. They're a bit more tighter, as you always are. Scottish are a bit tight, folks, if you don't know already. Yeah, whereabouts... where's things with Scotland?
Yeah, we're okay. It's like everybody... I'm just looking out the window there, so if you hear some noise, there's no way I'm shutting this window with the way... We've actually got like a heat wave in Scotland the last few days, so I'm definitely not shutting that window. And so if it's a little bit noisy at times, I don't care because I'm absolutely roasting my tits off here. So, but no, it's definitely changed. I think it lifted from last Thursday, I want to say. Now you can meet other family members if you're in an open space and so and so. You're definitely seeing a lot more people out, and there's people flying by in bikes non-stop. But any bit of sunshine and you will see Scotland come out in force, and that's what's kind of happened the last couple of days. So yeah.
Nice, bro. Good, yeah. Well, it's good to see that Scotland's getting a bit of sunshine and people can get outside. And it's a bit of a plus sign with everything going on. But again, hopefully everyone else at home and listening and checking this out is safe and well. And thank you all for tuning in. So we're going to jump into this UFC 250 card. We'll start at the bottom from what we have at the moment and work our way up. This is the structure we have for now. We'll start with the catchweight bout at 150 pounds of Evan Dunham against Herbert Burns. Will, kick us off. What are you going for?
This was made over the weekend, as far as I know, so it kind of came out of nowhere. And I was not expecting to see Evan Dunham in a UFC kind of cage again. And but like I say, catchweight bout put together very, very quickly. I don't think Dunham's ever fought 145, has he?
I don't believe he has.
This is his lowest weight, and him coming out of retirement to a weight that he's never fought before. Even though it's only a few pounds less, but still, if you've never fought at that, and you've never maybe cut as much weight as that, it's going to be a little bit of a kind of shock to the body. Like I said, I was not expecting to ever see Evan Dunham ever again, so the fact that he's got the itch and he's got himself a fight here, I think Herbert Burns is a fight that's going to really kind of grow into the UFC. I think he is going to take some losses, kind of in his UFC kind of tenure over the next maybe couple of years, but I do think he might be kind of like his brother, maybe not as good as his brother, but I think he's going to kind of grow into being a really kind of decent fighter. I don't think he'll ever reach as high level as what his brother did, who's coming off he absolutely ran through Tyron Woodley at the weekend. So yeah, Evan Dunham, I think on the feet, I think he could have an advantage there. I think that's where it's as close as the kind of matchup is. On the ground, you kind of have to maybe edge someone like a Herbert Burns a little bit. But I think this could end up being relatively close. I mean, he's been out for, I want to say, coming on nearly 2 years. And Dunham obviously had the 2 fights where he kind of got blasted and taken out the fight. But in saying that, it was only body shots. So it wasn't really kind of any head trauma. But you can see that if you can attack the body, you can get him. I don't think Herbert Burns is that kind of solid, super technical striker that's going to pinpoint that one place and kind of take him out of that. So ultimately, I can kind of see this being close on the feet and maybe edging Dunham in that a little bit. But overall, I think that I'm just going to pick Herbert Burns. I think he's fucking fought more over the last few years. He's kind of keeping very active. He's obviously probably training with his brother. Getting reps in at Hard Knocks 365 when they've been open. I think they've been open to the professionals a little bit. And I don't know what's been going on with Evan Dunham. Like I say, it was just a surprise that I even seen him on this card. So I'll take Herbert Burns. I think I'll take him by decision, but I think it could play out fairly close. But maybe you have to have some ring rust on the side of Evan Dunham. Who knows what kind of shape he's going to be in. But I'll take Herbert Burns. Not super confident though.
Yeah, it always makes you question when a guy steps away, comes back, and you think, what's he coming back for? Because Evan Dunham's not going to get that belt.
Yeah.
He's not the level to get that belt back. So you think, what is the itch he's needing to scratch? Herbert Burns is a guy who's just going to grow in the UFC. You'll see him come on leaps and bounds. The Nate fight, it was just two debutants, so to speak. The pair of them were just introducing themselves to UFC. I think Herbert can throw a little bit more wild in this fight. I think you'll see him do that anyway. I think he'll have a bit more freedom. He's a bit more, because of the grappling kind of skill set that he has in his back pocket, it's something he will rely on with Evan. Evan would like to grapple and wrestle, but you can't take that risk. So if Evan's going to stay standing, you see with Evan Dunham, he's got a good basis for striking, but what will catch him out is those more flamboyant or out of the box or out of character strikes. And I think Herbert, if he can, he'll try to throw those strikes to get Evan against the cage, get up against the cage, and then maybe initiate some kind of grappling aspect. Whether he pulls guard, whether he tries to sneak under and take his back, with he was shooting in for a single leg to go around to the back, who knows. But I'm going to go with Herbert Burns as well. I just think, he's the fresh blood coming into the UFC. Evan is really, he is on that latter stage of his professional career, no matter what he wants to say. And like you said, the brother, Gilbert having that stellar performance, it's just going to do a little momentum. It's going to pick up Herbert as well. It's impossible not to. So momentum is all with Herbert Burns in this one. I don't see it going any other way. I'd probably suggest a decision because Evan is a tough cookie, and even his wrestling might actually help him on the ground. He might be able to negate some of the submission attempts from Herbert, but it maybe nullify, but still be under threat. So I'm going to go with Herbert Burns as well. I think he might get a late sub. Okay, next up we have a light heavyweight division. So we have Alonzo Menifield against Devin Clark. So I think Alonzo's got a good amount of potential in him. He obviously has to pace himself because one of the problems he has is that there's a potential for gas tank issues because when he throws, dude, that guy hits. That guy throws nuclear warheads at you. I think there's the big question in this fight for me is, can Devin Clark close the distance, get him against the cage, and get the fight to the ground, potentially? I don't think standing on the feet is the best move for Devin Clark here. I just don't feel his striking is up to par with what Alonzo can do. I feel like Alonzo could even lull Devin in to come back and maybe counter Devin Clark to kind of hurt him. Devin Clark, if you watch his fights, like, for example, I know he got caught with the submission against Jan Blachowicz, but if you take away that submission bit, he was initiating a lot of the grappling on the cage, a lot of cage work to really get work in there, try and get the fight to the ground. And this is where Devin really needs the fight to go. And be fair, it's a good test for Alonzo. We'll get to see what his takedown defense will be like, because Devin will go for that for all 3 rounds. If it goes 3 rounds, he will want to get the grappling initiated in. So I'm hoping we get 2-3 rounds out of this fight, because I want to see what Alonzo's management of energy is. I want to see how he does with the grappling exchanges and how he feels after. Does his output really fade away? I really hope to see a good test. I think it's a great test for Alonzo to see where he is. I'm going to go with Alonzo because I just think he's got this kind of freak nature of power with he drops bombs. I like Devin Clark. I think he's got a good base. He's got a good solid skill set. He's never going to be an elite light heavyweight Devin, but I do see the more potential in Alonzo. I just hope Alonzo doesn't get kind of caught with the grappling aspect. You hope he shouldn't do, because there's going to be no crowd. So hopefully his corner can talk him through. As long as he listens to his corner, they'll help him in those kind of parts, whether to place his arm, underhooks and stuff like that. So I'm going Alonzo. I think those hands can land on Devin. Devin's not got the slick head movement to get out of the way. So I think all he has to do is land one. So I'm going with Alonzo here.
Yeah, I think it's a good fight actually for Menifield to kind of move on from what he's faced so far. I think when you look at, Vinicius Mamouti was never. He turned out to be a really, really bad fighter that the UFC had. I think he's still there actually, surprisingly. And Paul Craig's got nothing for him on the feet. So we know where that fight needed to go for him to win there, and it was never really going to get there. So someone like Devin Clark here, who's a lot more experienced kind of in the UFC and had some fairly decent big fights against some decent caliber opponents, could be the type of guy that could give Alonzo kind of more problems than what we've seen so far. I think if he was to clinch up and try and kind of muscle him against the cage, I think that would be big there, because we've not seen him in rounds 2 and 3, and that's where I think that Devin Clark needs to really push him, is to get him to the ground and maybe just rough him up with the dirty boxing against the cage. I think that's where he has to try and do it, because if they're out in open space, Alonzo's got so many weapons, like so much power, but we've not seen his gas tank, so that's a little bit of an iffy one for me. I think Devin Clark is kind of live in this fight if it goes into the second round, but I've just got a feeling that he's going to get caught with a bomb, and that's what Menifield does. That he knocks you out, and I think he could absolutely do it here. So I'm going to pick Alonzo, and I'm going to pick him via a round 1 knockout.
Nice. Super stoked about this fight and this matchup. Flyweight division. Alex Perez, Jussier Formiga. What a battle that is, Will. Whew.
Yeah, it's a really good. I like flyweight fights in general, man. I really do. I just like the flyweight division. I've got Formiga here. Even though I think Perez is a tough out, I think he's quite big for 125. We've seen him kind of struggle sometimes to make the weight, I think, from what we've seen before. I don't know whether he's actually missed weight before. But Formiga is a tough out for anybody in that division. It doesn't matter who you are. He's a top 5 guy, perennial top 5 guy in that division. Perez is a kind of wrestler by trade, and I really don't think he'll decide to use his wrestling here. I think he's on the feet. I think Formiga has definitely kind of come into his own since he's went to American Top Team. They've definitely moved him forward with his striking, where he can do enough to kind of get into clinch positions. And once he's got his hands on you in a position where you can't move or you can't advance, he's probably going to end up winning rounds off you, and that's what he usually does. I mean, his 2 losses that he's coming off against Brandon Moreno, that's the best he's looked. He looked fantastic, showed up, completely put Formiga kind of in his place. And then the Benavides one, I mean, Benavides is one of the best guys in the division, but when you're talking about best guys in the division, Formiga has beat the number 1 in that division if we're taking it by what happened the last time Benavides and Figueiredo fought. I mean, that's a fight I was confident that Formiga could establish dominance by just getting a hold of him and keeping him there, and that's what he can do with anybody. I don't care who you are. I think that if Formiga gets that position, he can ride out. He did it with Sergio Pettis. I think Sergio Pettis was like on his Formiga was on his back for like 3-4 minutes a round. Once he gets a position where you can't get him off, he's a rough guy to get. And I think, like I say, Perez is not going to wrestle, and I'd be surprised if that happens. So I think it's going to become more of a stand-up kind of fight. I think the power obviously lies on the Perez side, but I think maybe the technique maybe falls on Formiga's side a little bit. Not too much. He's not a super big striker, but he does enough to get into clinch positions and get your back or whatever it may be. And I think that's what he's going to do here. So I've got Formiga to. I think again, when you look at Perez, anytime he made the jump up, he's only really made the big jump up once. The Benavides, and that didn't end too well. Now he's making a jump again after his couple of wins over some guys, and Formiga's definitely another jump up to what he's faced beforehand. So I've just got Formiga. I think that I think he can grapple enough in this one. I think he can just do enough to win a pretty closely contested decision.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about Formiga is the scrambles, the sweeps, and the threat that he has there, that you can't hold him down. He's got that threat of reversals, and it's always tough. So Perez, if he would even initiate that, he's going to have a tough time, because Formiga's got a great skill set to get to the back, like you said, Will. And when he's in, he's like glue. He's so good at staying on top of there. Wrestlers are very good at getting someone down, but what they're not good at is when someone's on top. The idea of wrestling is you pin him down, that's it, the match is over. So one thing Perez has is that he is good at wrestling. I appreciate that he has got the wins. Like you said, Will, the step up was Benavides. You know, he's had one step up. Other than that, the other guys were kind of perennial 125ers. Perez has missed a weight a couple of times in his career, to be fair, trying to make 125. He's had a couple of fights at 135 because he finds it tough there. So that's one thing that's going to happen. I think he's going to find it still tough to make weight no matter what. At 126, effectively, he has to go into. Formiga, The experience, yeah, like you say, Will, he did lose the last couple of fights, but he's fighting, like, he's just fighting the top guys every time for Formiga. He's fighting savage after savage. But Formiga's got just a great skill set, and he's got so much experience against top level, something that Perez doesn't have. I think if Perez was trying to even shoot for the takedowns, I think Formiga's got a potential guillotine, a kind of assault he can throw on there. He's got submissions for days. I'm going to go with Formiga as well. I just think the kind of experience is one thing that's going to play a part in it. I think the knowledge and experience that Formiga has, he can just outthink the guy. He can get ahead of Perez, because Perez doesn't offer anything out of the ordinary. He's got good boxing. He'll hit hard because he's confident in his own takedown defense, and he'll shoot, and he's got solid wrestling. But other than that, there's nothing about Perez that makes you go, whoa, you got to back up and you got to analyze it for a second. So I'm going for Formiga. I think he can actually get a submission at some point in the fight, just because he's one of the top guys, like you say, Will, in the flyweight division. Absolute stellar fighter. Next up, we have middleweight division. Will, Charles Byrd against Maki Pitolo. Maki let us down last time, Will. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, like Maki is a punching bag, it seems. Like, the dude likes to get punched in the face. I don't understand it. He went down to 170. He's gone back up to 185. Contender Series 185, sorry. UFC was 170, and now he's back up to 185. So obviously he's trying to find his weight class that he feels happy in, and obviously right now it's probably just a case of he's happy to get the fight with this kind of COVID thing going on. I think he's got a tough fight against Charles Byrd, man. I legit think Maki's going to get lit up and get absolutely mollywopped. One thing Chris Byrd's really good at is good at closing the distance and getting the grappling exchanges. He showed in the Darren Stewart fight, when he gets the grappling exchanges, he was really clever and really smart at getting those elbows and strikes landing. Now, don't get me wrong, when Chris Byrd got hit by Darren Stewart and he got hit hard, it did cause him troubles. And Maki apparently has his power in his hands to really hurt people. We'll see it in this fight, because I think Charles, if he's smart enough, he actually probably get the fight to the ground, and he could probably get a submission win. So he'll initiate the striking to start with, get the grappling in, and I think he should be able to get Maki down and put this fight away. I'm going for like a submission win first round, if I'm brutally honest with you. I don't hold Maki too confidently. I understand you might get deer in the headlights in your UFC debut, but man, he just got hit repetitively. It was against a low-level guy in the UFC. That's the thing. Wasn't fighting an elite guy in the UFC. He was fighting one of the lower-level guys. Man, I'm going Byrd all day long.
This is one I never looked into it too much. I didn't really want to go too far into it, because there was definitely other fights in this card I was more really intrigued with and wanted to look into a little bit more. But to me, I don't think Pitolo's UFC caliber. I think that showed in that fight with, is it Callum Potter he was against? And he was outstruck, and then he was just not leading off. If he was leading off and landing some of those shots, he might have kept Potter back, but he couldn't. Potter was landing him and then getting takedowns and winning the fight through that. Like I say, the guy has big power, and that's something that if you've got big power, it's always there and you can take him out. But I think it's a better overall mixed martial artist. I think it's Charles Byrd. I know he's coming off a couple of losses. He got starched by the kind of next coming in Edmund Shabazian. It seems like Darren Stewart caught him with some elbows as well. But I think skill for skill, I think you look in the Charles Byrd side there. I think he might play this one quite careful, where he'll try and get the fight to the mat. And I think he's got a submission advantage for sure down there, and he could catch him with a submission. So, like you say, he needs to win. He doesn't win this, you'd be surprised if the UFC kind of keeps him around. I've got Charles Byrd. I think he can get him to the ground. And I think that's when he can maybe style him a little bit and maybe get an opening down there and possibly get a submission. But I've got Charles Byrd for the win.
Next up, we have, making a quick return as well, as Brian Kelleher taking on Cody Stamann. Will, it's a good battle, especially for Stamann as well. It's a good one. It's a good fight for him. But Kelleher as well. He gets another win here. He's pushing himself up there again. He's getting a good little run if he gets a win.
Yeah, I keep picking against Brian Kelleher and he keeps buzzing through me. So I've bet Osborne, and he got absolutely starts in the 2 minutes that fight lasted. And then Hunter Azure, I had him in a parlay. And to be fair, I thought Hunter was well on his way to winning the second round there. I thought he won the first, he won the second, but he didn't really. I thought he was going to wrestle, and he did not wrestle one bit in that fight. And he got super confident in his striking. I think he started to maybe gas a little bit, and I think that Brian just used that experience that he's accumulated, and that's something that you can never not like. If you have something like that in your back pocket, it always helps. But he caught Hunter with an absolutely beautiful shot there, knocked him clean out, was a nasty knockout, nasty finish. But I definitely think Hunter was on his way to at least winning 2 rounds, and who knows what would have happened in the third. But Brian Kelleher keeps getting me pretty much. But I think this is again another big step up from the 2 guys that he's faced. 2, you could say, well, they're kind of newcomers because they're only like maybe 1 or 2 fights in the UFC career. But you've got someone in Stamann here who's like 5 or 6, great record. I think it's like 18-2-1. Fought some really tough guys. Fought some of the best guys in the division. When you look at like an Aljo, where I know that he lost that one, but that's a massive, like, he's on a different level to what Brian Kelleher is. And even like people like at the time, Dunham was a hype prospect, and he's kind of faded off. Caraway's always a tough out for anybody, and Perez can always fight close as well. But he puts everything together very, very well. And what I like about this fight here is that he's not fighting like bigger guys. Kelleher might be bigger, but the reach range is a little bit different. Not like a Sterling who's like 71 inches. I had like 6
crazy
over him. So, because I think Stamann's got like one of the shortest kind of reaches. So having that there, I think he's got a wrestling advantage. Has to be careful with Kelleher with that because his go-to move is the guillotine choke. So has to pick his takedowns really, really well. But I think he mixes it together so well. And he can be a problem for a lot of guys. He's, in my opinion, when I look at a top 10 guy, he's a guy that will always be in your 10-5 range. I think he will beat some good guys. I think the people that beat Cody Stamann are guys that will move on to that top 5 range. I don't see Brian Kelleher being a ranked fighter at 135 personally myself. So I've got him to mix everything up here and win a pretty comfortable decision.
Yeah, Cody's got some good conditioning as well, considering the kind of wrestling that he does apply in fights. You think it would gas him out, but the dude's got some superb conditioning. Yeah, Brian's... I'm not going to pick him again. I am going Cody, but I just think, Brian, if you do me over again, the odds are I'll pick you next time just for the sake of it, and then you'll blink and lose. But he shouldn't win this theoretically. Because Cody's got, like you say, the better wrestling. He actually hasn't got bad boxing, but the thing is, Cody's got good kicks. You know, he has got a good array of kicks about him, and he uses them really well. Because one of the things he does really well, the kicks, it's an advantage. It helps you close the distance down. So when you want to shoot him for a takedown, you can use punches, but using the kick, when you throw your kick, rather than return the kick back to where you started, you can leave it where it was down to the ground, and then that can initiate you to change level of shoot in. So that's one thing that's really good. Really good thing with kicks. I feel like Cody probably should be able to control Brian in this fight. I think to start with, he'll probably engage Brian to try and strike a bit more, because we know Brian is happy to kind of throw some heavy shots here and there, and that's a brilliant time for Cody to shoot in for the takedown, get on top, get some top control. I'm going to go with decision win for Cody because Brian's got a bit of a head on him. He can take a bit of a pasting, but I think Cody should be able to initiate the strikes, kind of engage Brian to strike a bit more to him, shoot the takedown in, get on top, and just pile that pressure on him, get that top control, a little bit of dirty ground and pound, get that clock ticking over, and that will really score for him well. So I'm going Cody here. I think he should get a nice solid decision win, and should set him up nicely for potentially one of the losers of the fights on the main card. You never know. So yeah, I'm going with Cody on that one. Next up, we have in the middleweight division. I tell you, this one caught me off a little bit. I couldn't quite decide on my pick here. I found it a bit tough. Ian Heinisch against Gerald Meerschaert. I was a little bit hum and hawing because when I watched Ian Heinisch, I thought the dude's powerful, explosive. He's out there. He's game for the fight. But one thing I noticed about him was people say he had great cardio, and if you actually watch it, I thought no, he doesn't have the greatest cardio. His output does drop dramatically after the first round. He doesn't have a plan B. He doesn't have a plan C. He has that plan A, and if it kind of feels like for Ian, he gets a bit stuck. And I think when he fought Brunson, he just kept going to the well, and the answer was never coming out for him. He kept trying to stick the same kind of style of fight, and it wasn't working. Derek, obviously, he's got a good wrestling background, so he was able to negate that part of the fight as well. And with Gerald Meerschaert, he's the kind of opposite. He's a slow starter in the first round, and then he starts to get his groove in the second and third, and it's when he finds his way in the fight. So you kind of got that tough battle, because if Ian Heinisch gets Gerald to the ground, which I think he will, because Gerald doesn't tend to fight the takedown that often, because he has a lot of confidence in his grappling aspect, in his kind of submission game. You kind of sit and you get a bit worried about what's going to happen here, because Ian Heinisch, though, can get great top control and land some really good ground and pound, like he did against Carlos Jr. When he got him down and landed some good ground and pound. But in the same essence, he tries to use too many explosive movements. One thing he doesn't do, if you watch Ian Heinisch fight, he doesn't throw enough feints. He moves his head around, but that's just his generic movement that he has. He doesn't throw a lot of feints and hops. He doesn't use movement to close the range down properly. It's something he definitely needs to work on. I think this is going to go 3 rounds. So I'm therefore inclined to go for Gerald Meerschaert, because I just feel that Ian will drop off after the first. Duke Rufus will be able to kind of help Meerschaert negate him and go, look, you need to just X, Y, Z. I think Gerald will probably lose the first round. I'm going to go with a Meerschaert decision win 2-1, but I'm not overly confident. It could be a 2-1 win for Heinisch here, but I'm just going to pick Gerald here for the sake of it.
Yeah, I think this is it's kind of got close written kind of all over it.
Yeah.
What I like about this one is the fact that Heinisch has kind of faced similar guys to Meerschaert, and the fact that like Ferreira and Carlos Jr., they were guys who obviously wanted to get the fight to the ground. I think Meerschaert's kind of the same ilk, where he definitely wants to get down there because he is so well versed in the ground. But in saying that, his last win against Deron Wynn, his striking's coming on as well. Majority of that fight was with his striking, and he was catching Deron Wynn with numerous amounts of strikes in that one there. But to me, this just kind of rings out an Ian Heinisch close. Like, I think that he can fight well against a guy like Gerald Meerschaert, but always be careful, because Meerschaert is never the amount of experience the guy's got is probably 45 pro fights, 30 odd wins. So the guy's a big veteran of the sport. This is one, like I said, I never really looked into all that much, but I did watch the fights with Ferreira and Carlos Jr. So even if he gets taken down, I think he can find a way back to his feet, but obviously doesn't want to be there. I think on the feet, I just think he's a little bit better than Meerschaert, but I'm not super confident, but I'm going to go Ian Heinisch decision.
Nice, yeah. I am tough. I am torn on it. I thought it was really hard to pick. I went between the pair of them several times during the week. Next up, we have, I think it's the main event for the prelims. There it is. Yeah, featherweight division. They're trying to promote this kid. I think it's an ideal matchup to promote someone, really. Alex Caceres, that's not the guy I'm talking about promoting, who's been in the UFC for nearly 10 years, Will. Nearly 10 years. Against Chase Hooper, who is the kind of fresh blood, and they're kind of matching him suitably well, I think.
I'm going Alex Caceres.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's probably other fights they could have gave him that maybe stylistically would maybe make it a little bit easier for him, and maybe not have as much experience on the side, because, I mean, you said nearly 10 years, Caceres, and I'm saying that his record's not flattering. He's lost probably
500.
More. Yeah, he's a 500 fighter. Yeah. With a guy who can be taken down and submitted fairly quickly as well. And that's what Chase Hooper needs to do. It's fairly evident that his striking is pretty much non-existent. His defense is like really non-existent. He gets hit a lot. But in saying that, the kid's only 19, 20 years old. So, and he's been around for a few years. He's been probably fighting since he was like 16, 17, and he was in the Dana White Contender Series at 18. So there's going to become a time where Chase Hooper's going to make massive gains in his overall game, but there's obviously a massive difference between his ground game to his striking game. His striking game is like piss poor. It's really not good. He gets hit with a lot of shots. You watch the Dana White Contender Series when he was 18, he was getting beat up a little bit in that first round, but once he starts to turn around and he starts to get the fight where he wants it, super dangerous on the ground and very, very good. He flows into positions very easily. He'll move from the mount to the back. You've seen him, he moved into triangle against Daniel Tamer. So that's where he wants it. And the guy's got a lot of leverage with his ground and pound as well. And saying that, Caceres, like I say, his takedown defense is not all that great. And he has been submitted by guys in the past fairly, I don't want to say easily, but like his takedown defense is like below 60%. So there's an opportunity there for Hooper to if he can get the fight there, that's where I think that he's going to have his biggest advantage. Because on the feet, I think that he's going to get absolutely blasted. I think he absorbs far too many strikes, even though he's got some length there. Hopefully he kind of starts to establish that. But I can see this being a fight where he gets hit a little bit, he'll flop to his back. If Caceres is stupid enough to go to the mat with this kid, which I wouldn't say that he wouldn't do that, because it wouldn't surprise me if he did, because a guy with a kind of record like that, like sometimes he fights down to the caliber of his opposition, and that's what you've seen before. He's fought down to his caliber opposition, but sometimes he's fought up. I mean, he fought that main event against Yair Rodriguez, where it was a different Yair Rodriguez in time, but he's still Yair Rodriguez. He's still a top 10 guy of that division that he is now. So for me, it's all about where this fight takes place, because if it takes place on the ground, I think Hooper could sweep. I think he could reverse, and I think that's when he could start to use those limbs and the leverage that he's got and the submission skills to maybe beat someone like Alex Caceres. But I just think on the feet he can land some clean strikes, fight smart, and just win the fight through that. So I'm actually going to take him via knockout. I think Alex Caceres will knock him out inside a couple of rounds. I just don't like that defense from Chase Hooper, but I do expect to see Chase Hooper make some big kind of gains in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I thought it was a swell matchup for Chase, because of you've got a guy who's 500 fights in the UFC. He's kind of got the experience. He's a great one for Chase to go against, where, like you say, you can gauge where Chase is. Alex got tons of experience for an absolute plethora of fighters in his time, and he really is the gatekeeper of that division, and he'll just step in and fight anybody. Alex Caceres, like you say, on the feet, he's got good footwork, he's got good movement, and he throws some flash stuff. Of course, that's Alex Caceres, what he does. But he does have a good basis for striking. Chase has a good head for punching. I think one of the advantages Chase has with the young age is the durability is one of the key factors he has. But the worry is, at that age, you don't want your durability to be going before you're 21. You don't want to use that up. You want to really start to gauge and work on things and start to improve areas. I was a little bit stuck on it, because I thought, you know what? If Alex gets taken to the ground, Chase will probably absolutely have a field day. He uses his legs and arms so well. He's so long for that weight class, 6'1". I think he's got like 75-inch reach, so he's got a 4-inch reach advantage over Alex Caceres. Not that Chase will use the reach advantage at all, but on the ground, though, those long arms really are a hindrance and a problem. Like you say, mate, that the Tamer one, where the ground and pound, he transitioned when Tamer's changing angles and everything. It was beautiful to watch, and he just kept on him. And when he gets on top, he's got a bit of a nasty streak about him, Chase.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, you can see the light bulb kind of go on for him. When he's on the feet, he looks all sweet and innocent, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh man, on the ground he's just a nasty guy. I'm torn on this one as well, Will, because I think Alex, if he plays to his game, plays smart, fights smart, he can win. But I just haven't got the biggest and most amount of faith in Alex Caceres, because I'm like, dude, you have so many chances where you should win, and you don't, and it gripes me. Because you probably could be a better fighter than you are, but you somehow don't win. So I'm going to go Chase Hooper, because I think Alex at some point makes a mistake and this fight goes to the ground. Where I'm not saying it's a takedown attempt. I think maybe more Chase clinches. And because he's got such the height and the length, he likes to do the inside and outside leg trips. I think Chase will go for something like that. And when it gets to the ground, I think Alex will have a really tough time. And Alex, I'm not saying he takes it out, but he takes the less damaging route of the fight. So I'm going to go with Chase Hooper on this one. I think he can just pull it out, because I just don't have the confidence to pick Alex Caceres with his lack of consistency. We're going to main card now. Now, Will, this is an interesting fight to match up with as well. Eddie Wineland against Sean O'Malley. You got a veteran of the sport, former WEC champion, absolute legend, savage, doesn't put his hands up, doesn't care, Eddie Wineland. Even though you'd think he'd learn to fight with his hands high from having 2 broken jaws, but he doesn't learn. He keeps fighting the same style. Against Sean O'Malley, the kind of, I want to say new breed, but he is the kind of new generation of the MMA world, and the exciting, explosive kind of fighters. Sean O'Malley lacks the fight IQ, I suppose, that Eddie Wineland has. The fight experience that Eddie has is tenfold of what Sean has. But one thing Sean has is he has a trick up his sleeve. You know, he has something in his pocket that he can pull out. He's got those kicks, those flash moves. He's explosive, powerful movements. I think Sean's going to have a bit of a tough time to start with because of Eddie's footwork. Because Eddie has got decent footwork, he's got good angles, and because he doesn't put his hands up, it kind of catches you out at first. I think sparring with someone who doesn't have their hands up, you're usually trying to get them to move their hands in a certain way to then get the shot in. But Eddie Wineland, he's got good footwork, good movement. I think if I go back to the good example would be the Brian Caraway fight, for when Caraway fought Eddie Wineland. Caraway didn't really go for the grappling. He stayed on the feet, and he was able to outbox Eddie Wineland with the jab. Sean O'Malley in this fight has the jab. He has the reach there to jab off Eddie Wineland during the fight. Now, I'm hoping Sean's taking it into account and he can use that to his advantage. Just set up the strikes. I'm not saying he has to use the jab the whole fight. I'm just thinking there's a slight advantage. I think it's a 3-inch reach advantage here. Yeah, 3-inch reach advantage on the striking. But Sean O'Malley should be able to keep Eddie Wineland at bay. Don't lean back when you're tilting your head back when you're dodging a strike, Sean. Just use your footwork to get away. And I'm going to go for Sean O'Malley win here, especially because Eddie's been around so long. He's not fighting consistent. I think he averages like 1.3 fights every year in the past nearly 10 years. He's incredibly inconsistent, Eddie. Obviously, some of them are due to injury, so I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley here. I think he should get at least get a decision win here in this fight, and really just put a good performance in against a veteran of Eddie's standard.
I think speed kills. I think Sean O'Malley's going to buzz through him. I think I've got a funny feeling that I watched the John Dodson fight, and we all know that Dodson is a really he's not a bad counter striker, but he's got some very fast hands. He's in and out, and he can land some shots. I think that Sean O'Malley is quick. I think his speed's going to absolutely kill Eddie Wineland here. When you look, I mean, I don't really take much into the Popov win. I don't think Popov, to me, is overall kind of UFC caliber. And he took far too many hits on that one, in my opinion. I think Sean O'Malley's just going to absolutely. I think he's going to put that speed. I think he's going to feint. I think he's just going to throw Eddie Wineland off. And I think that Wineland can be knocked out. And I think that's what O'Malley can do. Now, if it goes into the kind of later part, and saying that, when you look at O'Malley fighting your Sukumtaths and your Canones, and kind of in that Sukumtath fight, before whatever happened, he was beating up Sukumtath. He was faster to the punch. He was just more athletic, more agile, and just far quicker. I think he's going to have a speed advantage over a lot of guys in this division. But I think since he had the ban, I think he's worked on his ground game quite a lot. So, and what I liked with his last fight was he sounded different to me. He sounded like he kind of grew up a little bit. He was happy to be back. This is what he wanted to do. He wanted to fight regularly. And he's got, I mean, this is a big jump up against a kind of named guy at bantamweight, not a ranked guy. But if he comes in here and does what I think he does and knock him out, then I think that he gets himself close to a top 15 spot, gets himself a high caliber fighter. And the UFC want to push this kid. He's got a lot of support behind him. So I'm going to pick Sean O'Malley. I think he knocks him out inside 2 rounds. And might be the kind of last time we ever see Eddie Wineland kick around the UFC, depending if he wants to fight again. But I'm going to take Sean O'Malley via knockout.
Nice, bro, nice. Next up, welterweight division, Neil Magny against Anthony Rocco Martin. I'm interested to see who you're picking in this one, Will.
Yeah, gut's telling me Neil Magny, but I've got a feeling this could ultimately be another really, really close fight, because I think that Martin's got some skill, parts of his skill set that can maybe bother Neil Magny a little bit. I always seem to pick against Anthony Rocco Martin. I've never been his biggest fan, but to me he's, and this is bad to say because I'm not a fighter, I'm just a fan, but I think he's basic. But what he does is he does very well. I think that he's got some parts there, like I said, that could hurt Neil Magny. And I always seem to underestimate kind of Neil Magny a little bit, and I did it last time. I thought that him being off, I thought that Lee in China to Lee fighting anywhere else in the world is just a completely different guy. But Neil Magny kind of came through the initial flurry of the first round and then completely took over that fight against Li Jingliang, which was, to me, it's a really good win, especially after being out for as long as Neil Magny was. So when I look at Rocco, I think what he's got that could cause problems for Neil Magny is leg kicks. I think that's his best kind of striking. I think his boxing's fairly basic. But I do think he's got chopping leg kicks, and Neil Magny has thin legs. We've seen him chopped up in the past with leg kicks and hurt with leg kicks in the past. I think wrestling and jiu-jitsu wise, I think Rocco Martin's actually really, really good. But I think Neil Magny's just an awkward guy to face because he's got a massive reach advantage here. He uses it well. He does really well to kind of use his striking to really get into the clinch position, put you against the cage. And that's where I think he wins this fight. I think he can put Martin against the cage. And I think he can use those trips to get the fight to the ground. I can see Martin probably popping back to his feet. But ultimately, I kind of see Magny using his striking, getting into a clinch position, and getting kind of opportunistic takedowns and winning the fight through that. So, like I said, I always seem to pick against Rocco Martin. I've never been super high in the guy, and I've kind of always underestimated Neil Magny a little bit. But I think this is a good match. Kind of going with my gut feeling on that. I'm seeing a lot of people actually on the Martin side. He is an underdog in this fight, and I don't know. I think I'm just going to stick with Neil Magny and hopefully can kind of pull through in this one.
You're not the only one. I'm with Neil Magny too. Mm-hmm. I am on the Neil Magny train. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic performance he made coming back. Like we both didn't pick him, but he looked tremendous. Like you said, one of the things that was key was that grappling exchanges on the cage. He looked tremendous, powerful. I think Tony Martin is going to have a tough time taking Neil down if he wants to. I think Neil should be able to stop him getting the takedowns. He'll be able to use his 1-2. He's got a lovely 1-2 cross with those long reach because it's so hard for Rocky Martin to get away from it. The leg kicks, you say, Will, I think is a factor. But one thing Neil was doing in the last fight against Jing Lian, he was pinging out little calf kicks of his own, you know? So yeah. I think Neil's getting a bit more confidence in that regard as well to throw stuff like that. I think this is going to be a tough fight for Tony Martin because I think Neil's just going to keep him on the end of those strikes. He's just going to be smart, fighting pressure him up against the cage and just be able to pick away at him. Because the problem for Anthony Martin is if you're up against the cage and you've got Neil Magny in front of you, Neil Magny's got that massive reach advantage pinging at you. You can't go anywhere because you've got a cage behind you. You can go left or right, and that's all you've got. And so it's easier for him to close you off. So I think we should see Neil Magny do a really good performance here. I think he looked absolutely, especially when he had Jing Liang just pinned against that cage and was just beating on him, was just absolutely insane. I think Anthony Martin's got a great camp, great group of people around him, don't get me wrong, and like you said, Will, he does the basic things very well. I thought in the Meev fight, Meev just didn't turn up. He just didn't. He took a couple of calf kicks and then thought, I'll just keep doing the same thing and let him keep doing it. I thought, no, you need to initiate more here. You need to close that distance so the calf kicks can't be applicable for Ricky Martin, or you need to do something else. But at the same time, I'm going Tony Martin to lose here to Neil Magny via probably a decision, maybe late round TKO. But I've got Neil Magny as well, bro. Next up we have two of the most exciting fights coming up next, I think, on the whole card, in my opinion. Aljamain Sterling, Cory Sandhagen. Now, this was meant to be, obviously, Cory Sandhagen was meant to fight Frankie Edgar, and that was one of the cancelled cards about a month ago or something like that, or 2 months ago, I forget now. Which I would have thought I thought that was a crazy idea to put Frankie Edgar against Cory Sandhagen. I thought, that is not a good mixture. Who has Frankie got, though? They have matched him up with someone. Is it Pedro Munoz?
Yeah, fights Pedro Munoz. Yeah.
That's a more suitable fight, but still. So Cory Sandhagen, Aljamain Sterling. So do you know what? I think they're both stylistically kind of similar in what I mean by they like to switch their stances, unorthodox striking. They come at you a bit funny punches, funny angles. I'm actually crazy here. People might think I'm bonkers. I don't know. I don't care. I'm going Cory Sandhagen. Aljamain Sterling, for me, to win the fight, I think he should use his wrestling. He needs to, in this fight, to get the win. I think using his wrestling will come a long way. It'll be a lot more effective for him. Cory Sandhagen knows, got good scrambles, good takedown. He's got a good takedown defense, and also he's got he's good sweeps and reversals. But I think for Aljamain, stick to your bread and butter. Your strongest part is your ground game. His striking is okay, it is good, but I think Cory Sandhagen's got a far more fluid striking. He's got more output. He's got more straight. He's more pressured with the striking. Aljamain likes to throw out the front teep. I think Cory could catch that and move that and do lots with it and a lot of damage to Aljamain Sterling. And I think one thing you had with Aljamain Sterling's last opponent, who is going to be off the top of my head now, but I think he calf kicked or something like that. I think who the hell do you know what's going to bug me now? Aljamain Sterling's fought.
Munoz,
yeah. So the problem with the Munoz one was Munoz just couldn't get that distance closed. He couldn't get close. He got close enough once or twice. He did hurt Aljamain a couple of times, but overall he just couldn't get in. Cory will be able to get in that space because he's not short like Pedro Munoz. He's got the range and also got the footwork and angles to get into there. So I think Cory will be able to cause Aljamain a bit more of a worry because Aljamain won't be able to stay back and just pick off the shots. Don't get me wrong, I think Aljamain and Sterling can 100% win this fight. I think if he sticks to the wrestling, frets more with the wrestling, then is able to open up with the striker more. That's how Aljamain Sterling's going to win it. But I'm just going to go with Cory, man. He's got a good skill set about him. I like the way he fights. I'm probably on the minority here for Cory Sandhagen, but I'm going to go with Cory Sandhagen.
Yeah, I think, we're fans of Aljamain Sterling. I think,
yeah, big time.
Fan and really nice guy, solid guy, and to me, he's really, since that Moraes loss, he picked himself up, dusted himself off, and he's been a far, far better fighter since that knockout loss, that devastating loss. I mean, his output in his last couple of fights is serious, and I don't think that's his strong point. His wrestling and his grappling is definitely his strong point, and we've not seen that in the last couple of fights. He's predominantly used his striking, his length, his kind of awkwardness, but he's not going to have any advantage over like a Jimmy Rivera or Pedro Munoz here, because Sandhagen's, I still think Sterling's got a reach advantage, but Sandhagen, the way he uses his length and what he does with it is really, really impressive. I've been kind of slow to be on the Sandhagen bandwagon a little bit. I wasn't sure when people were talking him up, and I was not sure at all. Then you had the Lineker fight, which he got very, very quickly into his kind of UFC career after beating, was it Alcantara, Bautista, and then he got that. And I mean, the kid showed in the Alcantara fight that he can take a shot, because he did get hit with one there, and the guy's got a hell of a lot of heart. He really, really has.
That arm.
Arm was pretty much nearly getting taken off the bone. And then he came through, and once he got at Yuri Alcantara, he absolutely bludgeoned him and went through him. Then anytime you're beating John Lineker, and I actually kind of thought at the time John Lineker won that fight, I thought he had an opportunity to win that one, but went back and rewatched, I think Sandhagen probably did get it. And then his performance against Assunção, to me, was incredible. It was so good. You could see from the mid part of the first round that he was picking his shots so well. He found his range really quick. He worked out Assunção really quick. And Assunção, he is one of the best guys in that division. The names that he's beat, the longevity in that top 5 to top 10 is crazy. And really, Assunção really couldn't kind of get at Sandhagen. He had points. I mean, he got some takedowns, but the one thing that you maybe look at Sandhagen, it is very, very easy to kind of get down, but it's hard to keep there. He sweeps well, he reverses well, he gets back to his feet, and once he gets back to his feet, he picks his shots and he makes it up so well. So for me, at the top of this division, I think now there's no Cejudo. I think you've got a Peter Yan, who I think he's going to fight for the belt regardless. They've got Aldo waiting in the wings there. But I think if he comes out here and wins this fight, he's next in line, in my opinion. I think if he's impressive here, he should get the next call. But when you look at Sterling's last few fights, I just don't think he's going to be able to use that type of game plan of output and range against someone like Sandhagen. I think he needs to mix up and get in and takedowns, and I think he will get Sandhagen down. I think Sandhagen will find a way to get back to his feet, and I think once he does, I think he picks off at Aljamain Sterling a little bit. So I'm going to go Cory Sandhagen as well. I've got him to win that fight. I find it kind of hard to see them maybe taking out Aljo, but I think over a 15-minute affair, I think he wins most of the fight and moves himself on one more step closer to the title.
Nice, okay, nice. You're with me, thank you. I thought it was one of you. Happy days. Okay, next up, co-main event. We just mentioned his name before, Raphael Assunção, taking on Cody Garbrandt. Will, Now, this might hit your heart a little bit, this pick, but try and do the best, do not be biased. And who are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Cody Garbrandt. That's I think if you watched any of my videos, watch any of the Huddle videos, you'll know I'm a pretty big fan of Cody Garbrandt. One of the nicest guys I've ever had the kind of pleasure of being around anywhere, actually. Him and his family are really, really nice. And I called him being a UFC champion. I didn't expect it to be as quick as what he came through and did, and especially the way he did it against kind of Dominic Cruz, who is one of the greats of that division. But I always thought, as soon as I seen him, I had my eyes on him. I was like, the kid has got so much skills that he's going to make it, and he did. But since then, he's been his own worst enemy, really, to say the least, because he got the belt. He had TJ Dillashaw kind of dead to rights in that first fight, and then ended up getting taken out himself. And then again, he kind of had TJ wobbled a little bit in the second fight, but then got smashed out again. And then the Munoz fight was, I bet Cody in that one. I thought that's a good matchup as long as he stays disciplined, picks his shots, get hit with a shot and the switch went, and that was it. And once that switch goes with Garbrandt, I think we've seen that he's not got the best chin. Now, to me, I think he's got the most elite hand speed and the most elite power, I think, in the division. I think he's got two of the biggest things there. He's also got a wrestling background. You don't see that often. But if you may have all that, but if you've not got to kind of maintain it in there and stay calm, stay focused, stick to a game plan, then what real use is it? That, on top of the fact that he's had really bad back injuries at 27, 28 years old. Maybe his best days are behind him. And then you give him Assunção, who I just mentioned is one of the more talented, more solid fighters in the entire UFC in the division. It is a really tough matchup, I think, to come back to. But I'm interested to see what Garbrandt's doing. He's went to a new camp with Mark Henry. Still, I think he's going between Team Alpha Male and out there in New Jersey. So I'm interested to see how that helps out, if he can maybe calm him down a little bit, because I do think he's got really good boxing, and obviously I've mentioned the hand speed and the power, and I think he can knock out a majority of guys at 135. But maybe his best days are past him, and I hope I'm wrong in that. Because I do think that he is a really fun fighter. You know, when you watch a Garbrandt fight, you're going to get fireworks usually. But if he can rein that back, he's going to have to here, because I think Assunção is just so solid that if he makes any mistake, Assunção will kind of jump on it and could just capitalise from it. And like I say, you look at, I know that he won the belt and he beat Dominic Cruz, but you look at who Assunção's faced throughout the years and the wins that he's got, that's unbelievable. And you look at Garbrandt, I mean, he's faced your TJs and your Cruzes, but who has he really faced outside of that? Nothing that jumped off the page when you see Assunção. He's fought literally everybody in that division. Your Sandhagen, like we just mentioned, he fought Dillashaw twice. He fought, I think, Faber back in the day. He fought Moraes twice. He's fought the who's who of that division pretty much. So, to me, I'm just interested to see what Cody does, because I think he needs to stay to a game plan. He needs to stay disciplined. I think he's the better boxer and try and use that. But I can't trust him until I see it with my own one eye, because I've got only one real good eye anyway. But until I see it with my own eyes, really, that he's kind of flipped the page and he's a kind of different fighter, he's hard to trust, because he gets hit once and everything turns off. It's berserker mode and he's wide open and his chin's just not good enough. And when you look at this division the way it is now, I look at the people ahead of him, say like a Sandhagen. I think Sandhagen can hurt him. I think Peter Yan can hurt him. I think Marlon Moraes can hurt him. Maybe his best days are past. I'm not sure. Maybe a drop to 125 might not be the worst thing, but there's tough fighters down there. You've got Figueiredo, who hits absolutely rock hard as well. So I'm going to pick Raphael Assunção. I think this one's going to be close. Obviously, I want Cody to win, but I absolutely love Assunção as a fighter, because I've got so much respect for him and his skill set and just how solid a fighter is for as long as he has done it as well. But I'm going to go Assunção via a close decision.
Yeah, Assunção's been consistent for the longest time, and it is not easy to be consistent in a division like that. I'm with you on that with the credentials of Assunção. And the thing about him was the second fight against TJ. TJ was on fire performing. Assunção had been out for year and a half, 2 years with an ACL or something like that. He'd blown his knee out or something, and that was his first fight back. Imagine that, your first scrap back, TJ Dillashaw. And I'm not being funny, you're going to be off the mark a little bit, you're a little bit slow, and he did alright, you know what I mean? He did good in that fight. If you look at the grand scheme of things, your ACL popped, you come back and fight TJ, so I thought he looked great, considering the circumstances. And he is one of those guys, he's going to be patient in this fight, because I'm not being funny, you're facing Cody, what Cody's going to turn out? Is Cody going to be... I suppose Cody having over a year off is the great thing about it, and he might have been back sooner if COVID hadn't happened. But having a little bit longer off for Cody might help him a bit on the chin side of things. I don't know exactly, but I felt he got knocked out too often, too quick back then. It might just be it. That's your chin limitations. You know, you can't take too many hard shots. But Assunção does hit hard. He's very patient though. He'll stay on his back foot, Assunção, wait till Cody comes in, and then come back with the counter strike. So Cody's got to be smart in this fight. He can't just come in there with the 3 or 4 combos. He just needs to be patient, throw the strikes, end with the jabs, keep him at range, and he should be okay. But Assunção's got the kind of skill set to change the fight. He can alternate what he's going to do. He will gauge on what Cody is. If Cody's a little bit offish, you know, because Cody might get into the first exchange and go, oof, I didn't like that. I felt a bit woozy. And that might change it. I'm going to go with Assunção because I think consistency is there with him. You don't knock him. You don't see Assunção getting flatlined. I think Assunção's chin is solid. I think his performances are solid. He's got good pop in his hands. He can hurt you. I think he can hurt Garbrandt. And also, he's gonna if Cody, like you say, he's got a wrestling background, you've got to get Assunção down. Good luck getting Assunção down. That dude's a monster on the ground if he wants to play down there, but he doesn't play there. I just think Assunção's got a great opportunity here to put himself against a good name like Cody, and that really puts Assunção up in the mix again. He'll probably get the winner or the loser maybe of the Jan and Aldo fight. You never know. Well, he might get Moraes next. I don't know. They won't do a trilogy, will they? No, it's far too soon for that. Well, depending on who they've got around the fight, you never know. It might bloody end up happening. But I'm going to go Assunção as well. Like you say, well, the biggest thing is too much of a question mark over Cody. We probably need this performance to gauge what we can see in the future. So I'm going to go with Assunção more than the safe side of things. Next up, bro, though, the main event. The title fight. Amanda Nunes, Felicia Spencer. I didn't watch a lot of tape on this because I'm pretty confident in this on what I know knowledge-wise and what I've seen of the two girls. I'm going to go with Amanda Nunes, believe it or not. Might shock a lot of people there. Amanda Nunes, don't forget, she's at ATT. Who else is at ATT who's a gold medal winner in judo? Kyla Harrison, and she's a bigger girl than Felicia Spencer as well. So, and she's obviously, Amanda's been training with Kyla for a long time anyway, pre this fight. So obviously, coming into the fight when it got announced, Amanda and Kyla would have done a lot of stuff. Harrison would have said, look, you've got to watch out for this, this, and this. And they would have drilled and drilled and drilled. If you remember the Holly Holm incident with Ronda Rousey, they were explaining how they beat her, how one thing she does, Ronda Rousey has to get hip to hip. You stop that, negate it by putting the arm across. If you watch the videos of Holly Holm, and she stopped it. I think Amanda Nunes is going to be able to do the same thing here with Spencer. Spencer's going to want to close that distance. Spencer is not going to want to stand in front of Amanda Nunes because those nuclear warheads will take her head off for days. And I think Amanda Nunes is too smart of a fighter. She's too good of a fighter at the moment. She's on such a wave of performances. I can't see it going far. I can't see it getting out the third round. Never mind up to the fifth. I think maybe first, second round you might see Amanda Nunes puts Felicia Spencer away and kind of solidify that featherweight division. And if I was Amanda Nunes, I'd probably relinquish it and just go down to 135 and stay there because there's nothing to do in that featherweight division. Honestly, who is there? Megan Anderson, when they give her all newbies, there's nothing. Even Megan Anderson isn't even any good. And to be fair, Amanda Nunes would knock her head off her shoulders. So, man, just win it. relinquish it, get rid of the 145 belt. We don't need it, and stay around 135. But Amanda Nunes all day on this one.
Yeah, you need to. I think you need to be a kind of crazy guy if you're feeling kind of any type of confidence in Felicia Spencer. The one thing I will say though is that it's a smaller cage, so that kind of, I think that suits Spencer's game a little bit more. If it was in the bigger cage, I think it would be a little bit worse. But when you look skill for skill, where do you see Spencer really being better? I don't know. Nunes is the bigger woman, even though she's a bantamweight. She is taller. I think she will bulk out a little bit more. She's the better athlete, and she's well-rounded. She's just so well-rounded. She hits hard. You've seen in the JDR fight that she can take you down. She can advance position. I was super surprised she never finished that fight, by the way. I think that's one of, like I say, we're so expectant of Amanda Nunes. I mean, our stoppages of Holly Holm and Cyborg and so on. But there is occasions where she can kind of fight slow a little bit and come into the fight. The Pennington fight, she did that, even though she was well ahead and striking, and she was mixing in takedowns in that fight. That I just think skill for skill, she is better. I think maybe if it goes in the mat and she gets her back taken and you've got a bigger girl in Spencer on top of you, that might hurt you. But I think even jiu-jitsu wise, and she's a better black belt than what Felicia Spencer is. And you cannot go from Megan Anderson, Zion Fernandez Santos to facing Amanda Nunes in a title fight. I know, hey, I'll give her massive props for the Cyborg fight though, because she ate a lot of shots in that one, so she can take a shot. So I'm picking Amanda Nunes, and I'm just trying to decide whether she stops her, whether it's going to be another one of these kind of slow fights where she maybe doesn't do as much, because you've seen that in the Pennington, even though she was fairly active in that one. And the randomy one, I did think she could have got both girls out. I know she did get Rocky out, but I thought she could have got JDR out. So I'm kind of looking at Amanda Nunes by decision, because I think this might be a little bit of value in that due to the toughness of Felicia Spencer. But I'll go Amanda Nunes. I'll go a stoppage in the mid part, maybe end of round 3 into round 4. But if you're picking Felicia Spencer, go in the drop-down box and put a comment in and tell us your confidence. Tell us how you see it getting done. And just let us know. I'd like to see if there's anybody out there actually on the Felicia Spencer train. But I've got Nunes in that spot.
And nice, Will. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our picks for UFC 250. Now we're going to go into the betting side. Again, if you've got any bets, put the comments down below. If you've got any picks you're not sure about, feel free to talk about it. And as always, hit that subscribe button, folks, if you haven't done already. It makes sense. Get onto the channel. Join us. Will, what bets are we looking at?
There's a whole load of spots you could go this week. I mean, I've got 2 bets already. I've got one on Jussier Formiga. He's an underdog. He's plus 120. Plus 120, I think he is. Yeah, plus 120. So I think there's value in that, and inevitably what's going to be a close fight. I don't see Alex Perez coming in here and just like blowing him out of the water. I think it's going to be one of these old kind of school typical Formiga fights. It's very close, and he wins through his grappling, and but the rounds up until then will be close. And my other bet is actually Cory Sandhagen, who's actually an underdog. And it's kind of went from being an underdog to a favourite to then back to being an underdog again. So there's people putting money on Aljo to push Sandhagen back to being an underdog again. I got him at plus 110. He's plus 100 now, so it's a near pick him, but he's still classing as a dog. The other bet which I think I'm going to make is I'm going to bet Alex Caceres, even though it could turn out to be a bad bet because Caceres loses more fights than he wins in the UFC. But he's an underdog. He's plus 135.
No, that sounds about right. Yeah, not bad. It's not too big.
Yeah, the line is going up as well. So I might even get a plus 150 on Caceres in this spot, and I'm like, I'm going to have a shot on that, absolutely. But there's, like I said, there's other underdogs. You like it. The Assunção an underdog, but would it surprise me if Garbrandt caught him with a shot and not went in the first round? No. But I think...
out of curiosity, mate, what's Neil Magny and Rocco Martin odds?
Yeah, Martin's an underdog, plus 130, and Magny's minus 150. I think he's been as low as minus 130. So, but I think, like I said, I think Martin does have some tools to make that fight relatively close, and if you're on that side, I think plus 130 is not bad. I can see that line actually going up a little bit, though. But when you look at some of the other fights, I mean, minus 630 for Nunes. If you're doing a big DJing parlay, you throw it in for some extra value there. Sean O'Malley's like minus 450. Big odds there. That's maybe a little bit too steep for my liking. Meerschaert, you picked he's an underdog plus 100. Come back on Heinisch is minus 120. Stamann, I think, is a really good parlay piece. Now he's minus 280 in America. I think he is a little bit less here in the UK. So he's minus 250 here in the UK. So you're getting a little bit of value to what the Americans are getting at the minute. I think he's a good parlay piece. I think you could put him with someone on there. I don't know who it may be. I'm going to maybe look somewhere else. Maybe a Charles Byrd, minus 170. You put that, you might get yourself some decent plus money there. Menifield, minus 225, who could get this done relatively quick. But I've still got a few question marks there. Maybe Herbert Burns. He's minus 270. I think he's minus 250 here in the UK. So there is some different lines there. I'm thinking about a parlay because I'm going to have 3 straight underdog picks. So maybe a parlay with Stamann, a Herbert Burns or a Menifield. I don't know. I'm not sure. Or maybe find a total out there, which I might like for that. But I quite like the bets I have in Sandhagen and Formiga. And I will be betting probably Alex Caceres as well because I just think... I watch Chase Hoop and there's just so many holes, even though I think he really flows on the ground and he kind of looks decent down there. But I'm going to take the veteran in that spot. But there's some spots there, definitely.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, again, give us your bets. Put them down in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for joining us for UFC 250 picks. We're back again next week because we're back to weekly cards again. UFC Fight Night 176 or something like that is. I don't know.
Yeah, Calvillo, J Sky.
Yeah, that's the one I get excited about, that main event. So join us for then. Until next time, thank you all for tuning in.